A lion does not roar before it strikes. The strongest man does not speak to instill fear in others. Some try to intimidate with noise or raw emotion, yet true strength is silent, unpredictable, and disciplined. It is this very silence that makes it formidable. For what cannot be anticipated cannot be controlled. What cannot be controlled breeds fear. In this world, the most fearsome man is not the loudest. He is the one who commands the room without a word, whose silence is not apathy, but a mastery of all he observes, needing no reaction. This is the presence we will forge today, not through tricks or rhetoric, but through 6 inner states inspired by ancient Stoic wisdom. Each state makes your adversaries question their every move. They cannot predict your next action. They cannot fathom who you are. That is why they fear you. Let us begin. They expect you to flinch or erupt. Instead, you offer them silence. And in that moment, everything shifts. Most men react instinctively offended. They argue, threatened. They explain, provoked. They rage. But this is not strength. It is to be swayed by another's emotions. When your enemy dictates your feelings, they have already won, for they have stolen your inner peace. To react, to protest, is to signal they have pierced your armor. That is their aim. Imagine, instead, a different path. You do not flinch. You do not speak. You do not blink. You meet their gaze with calm, unyielding composure. Suddenly, they are uncertain of what comes next. Suddenly, their own weakness is exposed. That is true power. It is not noise, but silence that disarms. In silence, you force your foe to face their own flaws. You hold a mirror to their chaos, compelling them to sit with it. They crave disorder. You grant them stillness. They seek a stage. You offer them emptiness. And emptiness never deceives. Epictetus taught that it is not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. When you respond with silence, with absolute control, you are not weak. You prove you have mastered the battle within. I knew a man, quiet, unassuming, never raising his voice. In a boardroom, a colleague tried to shame him before all, mocking his ideas, calling him outdated. That man did not argue or acknowledge the slight. He simply looked at his accuser and asked, "Are you finished?" Then returned to his work. Eyes on his papers. The room fell silent, heavy with tension. The attacker shrank, exposed. That silence did not whisper weakness, it declared, "You cannot move me. You do not define me." That silence shattered his opponent more than any retort could. The man who remains unshaken is untouchable. The man who needs no defense becomes the most formidable presence in the room. So, forge this stillness. Master the pause. Let the storms rage around you, yet stand firm. In a world chasing reactions, refusing to respond is your greatest weapon. There is a presence that requires no permission. It does not beg for attention. It does not rely on volume, charisma, or theatrics. It is simply calm, steadfast, unyielding. This is what makes it fearsome. For most men are mere noise, filling the air with anxious energy. They speak too much, move too quickly, strive too hard. They crave attention as if it were air, seeking validation like water. They try to dominate, unaware that true strength does not demand control. It simply claims the space unapologetic, rooted in authentic virtue, not performance. There is something unsettling about a man who does not flinch, who needs no explanation, who pursues no approval. He stands alert yet silent, present yet untouchable. In his stillness, the room shifts. Men lower their voices in his presence, choose words with care, glance at him before finishing a thought, not because he commands it, but because his quiet authority compels it. This is not the loud authority of shouts or demands, but a power born within, forged through discipline, clarity, and restraint. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who harmed you." The man with unshakable presence does not merely ignore his foes, he rises so far above them that they cannot reach him. That is why they fear him. I knew a man named Elias, neither tall nor ostentatious, rarely smiling. Yet when he entered a room, eyes turned to him, not because he sought it, but because he needed nothing from them. He moved deliberately, spoke only when necessary, held a gaze just long enough to unsettle every action, word, and silence purposeful. Even in his silence, you felt something profound was conveyed. In a cutthroat industry where egos reigned, meetings were loud with posturing. Men argued to prove their wit, but Elias waited. He let them exhaust themselves, then posed a single, piercing question, often just a few words, and suddenly the room shifted from chaos to precision. It was not just his words, but his bearing no wasted motion, no unneeded emotion. He was a reminder that in a world of reactions, silence is the true threat. Men began to fear his quiet, for it was unpredictable, a sign he was watching, calculating, choosing his moment. Those who fear you most are not the ones who shout, but those who cannot predict your next move. This is the power of a steadfast presence. It unbalances adversaries, makes manipulators tread carefully, silences the loudest voices with your quiet. How do you build this? Cease performing. Stop chasing attention. Breathe slowly. Stand tall. Observe more than you speak. Practice doing nothing until your silence becomes the loudest force in the room. For a man of depth, purpose, and restraint need not rush. He compels the world to slow to his pace. When this happens, you need not assert power. You are power. There is a reason men provoke you. It is not always hatred, but often fear. Fear of what you represent. Your progress. Your calm. Your refusal to play their emotional games. So, they strike, not with fists but with words. Not to win, but to provoke. Insults are not about truth. They are about control. They aim to disrupt your balance, to test if they can steal your peace. They seek power by making you react. But the moment you respond, you grant them their desire. No matter how clever your retort or justified your anger, if your peace is shaken for even a moment, they have won. But when you stand unmoved, offer no defense, and refuse to acknowledge their barbs, their words echo back, louder in their own minds than ever. Silence in the face of attack is not weakness, it is judgment. A calm declaration that their words are unworthy of your response. Nothing wounds an aggressor more than being ignored by the one they seek to harm. I knew a woman named Clara, working in a toxic office where gossip and subtle hostility were currency. One colleague, envious and petty, tried to diminish Clara with sly insults, backhanded compliments, whispered jabs, sarcasm veiled as humor in meetings. Yet Clara never took the bait. Not once. She offered a gentle smile, took her notes, focused on her work, and left the room as composed as she entered. Over time, something remarkable happened. The attacker grew louder, more vicious, desperate for a reaction. But the louder she became, the smaller she appeared. Eventually, the room stopped laughing, stopped listening. When you strike a wall that does not yield, you become the fool. Clara did not fight back or expose her foe. She simply stood firm until the aggressor collapsed under her own weight. This is the Stoic lesson. Let the fool reveal himself. Let insults fall meaningless before your silence. Let the attacker crumble under their own insecurity. Epictetus taught, when someone speaks ill of you, say clearly, "They do not know me." Do not give your enemies the satisfaction of your defense, your anger, or your clarity. Offer them silence. For the man who does not defend himself has either lost or stands so far above the fray that the battle never reaches him. Be the latter. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your dignity be unbreakable. The next time someone insults you, smile not because it does not sting, but because it cannot touch what matters most. Men fear the unpredictable. They may not admit it. But when you become unreadable, you become formidable. For control begins with information. Your fears, ambitions, habits, and weaknesses are leverage in the wrong hands. The more you speak, the more you explain, the more they learn not to understand you, but to manipulate, unsettle, or outmaneuver you. But when you hold your counsel, move without warning, and offer no explanations, you become a puzzle they cannot solve, a storm they cannot predict. And that is terrifying. You need not lie or deceive. Simply create a distance between your true self and what they know of you. The Stoics understood this. They lived quietly, not flaunting their desires to the world. They acted with purpose, not for attention, sharing only what was necessary. Never all, for every truth revealed can be wielded against you. Seneca wrote, "To know when to speak and when to stay silent is a great art. Silence is not just wisdom, it is defense." I knew a man named Caleb, soft-spoken, disciplined, never oversharing. When pressed about his private life, he smiled, deftly redirected, never cold, always composed. Some called him mysterious, others arrogant. But in time, those same men came to respect him. Why? Because they could not fathom him. They did not know what stirred his anger, what unsettled him, or what he truly desired. Thus, they could not use it against him. When pressure mounted and rumors swirled, Caleb remained untouched. For no one could find his triggers. His plans stayed hidden. His movements, like a shadow, they feared what he might do next, simply because his limits were unknown. This is the power of being unreadable. Your enemies cannot strike what they cannot reach, nor reach what they cannot understand. To forge this armor, cease broadcasting your every step. Stop proclaiming your goals. Keep the depths of your mind guarded. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them err. For a man who holds his secrets does not hide weakness. He wields power. The world has no weapon against a man who walks in silence, holding his truth like a sword. revealing only what the moment demands. Let them study you. Let them try to unravel your silence. Let them exhaust themselves seeking a pattern that exists only in your will. In a world obsessed with speech, action becomes rare and fearsome. We live in an age where men announce their next move, their plans, their goals, their habits, their transformations. They mistake attention for progress, speaking of what they will do before doing it. But the truth is clear. The more you speak, the more predictable you become. The more predictable, the easier to obstruct. Yet the man who acts in silence, builds without fanfare, plans without promises, becomes unstoppable. By the time the world reacts, it is too late. The Stoics cared not for words. They lived with quiet resolve and discipline. They did not post daily affirmations or flaunt their virtues. They understood that silent action is the truest expression of self-respect. Epictetus said it best. Do not explain your philosophy. Embody it. Let others debate. Let them sell dreams. Let them chase applause for ideas of success while you pursue success itself. I knew a woman named Samira, brilliant and resolute, yet so quiet she was nearly invisible. While others boasted of new projects, future promotions, or side ventures, Samira worked in silence. At first, they overlooked her, deeming her timid, forgettable, until her name arose as the architect of a system saving millions. Suddenly, all eyes turned to her. But by then, she had moved on, promoted, elevated, untouchable, because they were too busy talking to notice her ascent. This is the power of silent action. It shifts the balance unexpectedly, delivers results without explanation, and leaves adversaries stunned. They did not see you coming, not because you hid, but because they failed to value you until it was too late. To cultivate this strength, shut the door. Work diligently. Let your efforts echo in silence. Warn no one. Do not herald your greatness. Make no grand promises. Simply vanish into action and emerge with results. When you act without forewarning, you not only evade opposition, you instill awe, not for what you say you will do, but for what you might do next. That silence, that tension, that enigma becomes more potent than any words you could utter. There is something formidable in a man who seeks no approval, in a world driven by likes, applause, and social validation. Most men bent, reshape themselves, soften their voice to be liked. They smile when they do not wish to, nod when they disagree, dilute their truth to avoid conflict. This is why the man who stands true becomes a threat, not because he is cruel or combative, but because he reminds others of what they have surrendered. Authenticity is a challenge, especially to those who live falsely. By refusing to conform, you not only free yourself, you unsettle others, not by attacking them, but by reflecting what they have long abandoned, the courage to be themselves. I knew a man named Jace, neither loud nor abrasive, yet he disquieted others without intent. He spoke plainly, never softening his tone to please. He ignored trends, wore what suited him, said what he believed. When others gossiped, he stayed silent, not from fear, but from principle. Some shunned him, called him harsh or aloof, but deep down, they felt the weight not of Jace, but of their own inability to live as he did. He was simply himself, unapologetic, steadfast, more revolutionary than any rebellion. This is the paradox of authenticity. It does not shout. It does not argue. It stands calmly, forcing others to confront their own masks. The Stoics believed in living true to one's nature, not the world's expectations or the crowd's whims, but to virtue, integrity, and consistency, especially when it sets you apart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You need not persuade others, nor match the room's energy, nor be understood. Simply be true." In a world built on performance, authenticity is fearsome. To become such a force, stop apologizing for who you are. Cease dimming your light to be palatable. Do not blunt your edge, your pace, or your clarity to comfort others. Speak less, but with weight. Say no when it is no. Walk away when it is over. Never apologize for the standards you hold, so long as you hold them for yourself first. When you become the unyielding version of yourself, unmoved by attention, unswayed by applause, you walk not just in peace, but with a silent weight that makes the weak adjust their masks before you even glance their way. You need not shout, threaten, or beg for respect. Yet they hesitate. They doubt. They fear what you might do because you give them nothing to read, only to feel. You do not fight your enemies. You become the presence that unsettles them simply by existing, without noise or drama, forged in the quiet fire of self-mastery. The most formidable man is not the loudest, but the one who needs no words. So do not shout. Do not explain. Do not rush for attention. Let your silence speak. Let your boundaries resound. Let your quiet wound those who never expected it. And when they finally see who you are already gone calm, focused, untouchable. If these words stir something deep within you, if you feel the call to become that silent force, leave a comment. I am done explaining. I act and commit not because anyone demands it, but because you have grown weary of mediocrity. Welcome to the realm of quiet strength.